The notion that global warming is a war by the mainstream media against Christianity may seem far-fetched to some, but it is an argument that has been gaining traction in certain circles. At its core, this idea suggests that the media's emphasis on climate change and environmentalism is a deliberate attempt to undermine Christian values and promote a secular, liberal agenda. While this claim may be exaggerated, it is rooted in a perception that the media's coverage of global warming is often slanted and dismissive of Christian perspectives. One of the primary reasons why some Christians feel that the media is waging a war against them is the perceived inconsistency between the biblical account of creation and the scientific consensus on climate change. The media's emphasis on human-induced global warming is seen as a challenge to the biblical narrative, which suggests that God is in control of the Earth's climate. This perceived conflict between faith and science has led some Christians to feel that the media is trying to undermine their beliefs and promote a secular, human-centered worldview. Furthermore, the media's focus on environmentalism and sustainability is often seen as a threat to traditional Christian values such as individual freedom and economic prosperity. The idea that humans must reduce their carbon footprint and rely on renewable energy sources is perceived as a limitation on personal liberty and a threat to economic growth. This has led some Christians to view the media's coverage of global warming as a Trojan horse for socialism and government control. Another factor contributing to the perception that the media is waging a war against Christianity is the lack of representation of Christian perspectives in the mainstream media. While there are many Christian leaders and organizations that are actively engaged in environmental activism, their voices are often drowned out by the dominant secular narrative. This lack of representation has created a sense of disillusionment and disenfranchisement among Christians, who feel that their views are being ignored or marginalized. The media's handling of climate change has also been criticized for its alarmist and sensationalist tone, which some Christians see as a form of emotional manipulation. The constant bombardment of dire predictions and catastrophic scenarios has created a sense of fear and anxiety, which can be overwhelming and disabling. This has led some Christians to question the media's motives and wonder whether the emphasis on global warming is a deliberate attempt to create a sense of crisis and panic. In addition, the media's emphasis on climate change has been criticized for its lack of nuance and balance. While there are many complex and multifaceted issues surrounding global warming, the media often presents a simplistic and binary narrative that pits environmentalists against skeptics. This lack of nuance has created a polarized and divisive debate, which has further exacerbated the sense of conflict between Christians and the mainstream media. Despite these criticisms, it is essential to acknowledge that the media's coverage of global warming is not necessarily a deliberate attempt to wage war against Christianity. Many journalists and media outlets are genuinely concerned about the impact of climate change and are seeking to raise awareness and promote action. However, the perception that the media is biased against Christianity is a legitimate concern that must be addressed. To resolve this impasse, it is essential to promote greater understanding and dialogue between the media and Christian communities. This can be achieved by providing more balanced and nuanced coverage of climate change, which acknowledges the complexities and uncertainties surrounding this issue. Additionally, the media must make a greater effort to represent Christian perspectives and voices, which can provide a unique and valuable contribution to the debate on global warming. Ultimately, the idea that global warming is a war by the mainstream media against Christianity is a complex and multifaceted issue that requires careful consideration and nuance. While the media's coverage of climate change may be imperfect and biased, it is not necessarily a deliberate attempt to undermine Christian values. By promoting greater understanding and dialogue, we can work towards a more inclusive and balanced debate on global warming, which acknowledges the diverse perspectives and values of all stakeholders involved.